The Spotrac Podcast, talking sports contracts, the salary cap, and business of sports.
Hey everybody, welcome to the final 2019 edition of the Spotrac Podcast.
Of the decade, Kevin.
Of the decade. Of the month, year, and decade.
That's right.
Of Spotrac Podcast. I'm Kevin Sylvester, Paul Peck, and the founder of Spotrac.com, Mike Giannetti. This podcast brought to you by Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment, empowering professional athletes and entertainers into the next decade with the knowledge they need to make informed decisions about their finances and wealth. Learn more, visit morganstanley.com/GSE. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC. You can tell it's cold and flu season in the Northeast. Two of us at least. Well, one of us has a cold. That would be me.
Yeah, my wife's been sick all week long, so I might not be able to dodge that bullet for much longer.
Yeah, and some NFL teams are left out in the cold, not in the playoffs,
well
Mike.
done,
Wait, don't we need to start with Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Oh,
What? So you can rub it in my nose?
We have to do
and
this.
I'm going to rub it back and say, what did they finish 5-11 this year?
Incredibly.
but the entire 31 fan bases
Yeah.
around the NFL were celebrating the touchdown pass. It was so significant that Kevin Harlan.
Did you hear this?
Yes, Kevin
pretty
Harlan
amazing.
announcing the Chiefs game. Butker's kicking a field goal, or maybe it was an extra point.
It was an extra point.
Kicking an extra point, and in his monitor, he's got the Dolphins game on, and he calls the touchdown pass. And Fitzpatrick, it was awesome.
Yeah. It was
just
pretty
great.
incredible.
Well, because it affected whether Kansas City was going to get the bye or not, so they had it on there, and he was tuned into it. But it was pretty cool. It was Kevin Harlan just seems to step into these viral moments. Things people run out on the field on him when they don't do it to anybody else, and he always handles it well. It was a pretty cool moment.
Oh, it was a great moment, and Fitzpatrick throwing that touchdown pass and beating the Patriots.
Yes.
Well, now, so a couple of things.
Going 80 yards.
I mean, 80 yards. Fitz did a couple of things. He has Bills fans lamenting what could have been, right? I mean,
Sure.
Bills had a chance to beat the Patriots in New England, did not. He figured, don't worry, the Patriots are going to beat the Dolphins anyways. Doesn't happen. And he's kept himself in the league for another year, at least.
He always does.
Right?
That is the Fitz magic. Beyond anything else, the Fitz magic is just when he's about to get himself booted out of the league because he doesn't win a lot of games, he dazzles you enough to make another team say, I want that guy on my squad next year. That's the Fitz magic.
He's coming back, too, right?
Has to.
I mean, Miami's got the 5th pick.
Because they'll draft a quarterback
Yeah.
probably in the first round, and he'll be the quote-unquote mentor, even though he's never really been much of a mentor. But
He kind of just
that's
takes
what
the
he'll be.
reins.
Yeah, he doesn't mentor. He's like, I'm going to play, and you're not. So that's kind of what he does.
I marvel at this career. I just marvel at it. It's been a mishmash. He's done whatever people have asked of him. You know what I mean? He's a 7-win guy. That's what he is, right?
Yeah.
That's just what he is.
That's generally a good season for him.
He's under
Yes.
500, but he
Yes,
is fun to
you're right.
watch.
For the AFC playoffs, that might be the biggest touchdown pass of the season
Yes.
in the AFC.
Sure is.
You're right.
Because
to put the Patriots in the wild card is shocking.
Patrick Mahomes said it was asked after all that occurred, what does it mean? He goes, basically, we got to win. You win the first round of the playoffs. You don't have to worry about it. You move on to the second round. That's what it is. It's not the right. You win a game, essentially. And now the Patriots, if they're going to make the Super Bowl again, have to do something they haven't done in
2009.
2000. You're right, 2000, because they've won the division 11 straight years.
Yeah.
To play 3, well, that doesn't mean they've have
That was
been
the
a
last
bye.
time they played a wild card. That's the last time they did not have a bye.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
And I think we all would agree, and most football people would agree, this is a much more flawed Patriots team than we have seen recently. So for them to have to play an extra game and then go on the road after that significantly puts a hole in their chances of getting back to the Super Bowl.
Well, I think they had a hole in their chance anyways, right? I mean, even if they had the bye, I think teams weren't fearing going to New England as they had in past years.
Not to mention, Baltimore's already beat him, Houston's already beat him, Kansas City's already beat him, and Buffalo should have beat him.
Right.
So
and
they're facing basically their worst opponents.
Right, and their matchup against Tennessee, that's no easy matchup.
Their old,
right?
their old guy, Mike Vrabel there, who's kind of turned Tennessee into New England South a little bit.
And how do you tackle Derrick Henry?
How do you not pay Derrick Henry? Can we talk about this
Yes,
for 2 minutes?
yes.
Sure, go.
What do we do?
here?
What do you do?
Well, how many times do we talk about running backs?
I've spent
here?
all week tweeting about it, about all these high-paid running backs and how they're maybe going to be removed from their teams next year. I mean, Gurley, we don't know. David Johnson, we don't know. Le'Veon Bell, we don't know. Zeke's a yes, right? He'll get one more year out of this gig.
See, the difference to me about Derrick
what do
Henry
you
is their whole offense is built around him. And I don't necessarily know with those other guys that you could say their offense is built around him. And to me, that's why you have to pay him, unlike the other guys. And as much as we sit here and say don't ever pay running backs ever again, their whole offense is built around him. They made Ryan Tannehill into a successful quarterback because of what Derrick Henry brings.
Let me give you
game.
2 points in Derrick Henry's favor. Well, 3. First of all, the last 2 rushing leaders were paid. That's Gurley. I'm drawing a blank right now. Zeke. Paid immediately after. So that's in his favor. He did win the rushing title. The second point is this kind of feels DeMarco Murray-ish. Do you remember DeMarco Murray?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
Led
Yeah.
the
Dallas,
league in rushing, right?
Dallas let him walk, but who paid him? Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Okay. So that's in his favor. And the other thing is Derrick Henry doesn't catch balls. He's not a part of the passing game, which keeps his value down. He's not a $16 million guy. All right. He's an $10, $11, $12 million guy, which is right around the franchise tag. I tweeted out yesterday, because the CBA is expiring, there's a loophole. Teams can actually use the franchise tag and the transition tag this year because it's the last year of the CBA. That could be something Tennessee does. Maybe it's something they should do.
It's probably smart.
With
right?
Tannehill and Henry, right? You transition Henry and you franchise tag Tannehill, and whether you get a multi-year deal done with either of them is fine, but at least you can lock those 2 players in for maybe one more year of this, because A.J. Brown is a superstar. He's a superstar.
Is a transition tag, is that cheaper?
It's like $2 million cheaper.
All right, so why wouldn't you do that with a quarterback?
Well,
Or you're just it's a wash.
the transition tag makes it easier for somebody to go and get you. So if you're not worried about teams coming to get Ryan Tannehill away from you and essentially offer sheet
Which
you,
I don't think they should.
Do you think somebody's going to do that?
No one's going after
I
Ryan
think
Tannehill.
the discussions we've had with the quarterback carousel the likelihood is less, right?
I would agree.
Too many other guys out there.
Would somebody offer sheet for Derrick Henry?
No.
That
No.
I could
Would
see
Tampa?
that. I could see that
No.
being more possible.
Miami?
Yeah, I could see that.
Really?
By the way, did you notice Fitz led the Dolphins in rushing with
Fitz and
less than
Lamar
300
Jackson.
yards? Yeah, Fitz
Incredible.
and Lamar Jackson were the 2 quarterbacks that led their teams in rushing this
But
year.
But he's terrible, Paul, right?
with
He
every-
is.
with
With
everything
220 yards. Sorry,
kidding,
Kevin.
kidding.
All right, but with everything we've talked about this season about running backs, and don't spend a number 1 pick on them. You don't have to pay them big money. Why would you offer sheet a running back? Why would you go do that when you know you can get a quality one in the draft that you don't have to?
It's twofold. I'm not talking about contending teams doing this. I'm talking about the Dolphins and the Buccaneers. You know what I mean? Who definitely need a running game and kind of have some cap to blow and aren't going to build themselves around a gigantic pass
And have other holes to fill in the draft.
But also it's twofold, because you're then forcing Tennessee's hand, right? So if you want, we've seen this in hockey,
Sure,
Kevin. We've seen
right.
it. We've seen it locally with Buffalo with the Thomas Vanek situation, where the Edmonton Oilers put it back on Buffalo and forced them to pay a deal they didn't want to even touch.
I've never heard the front office louder
Yeah, well, that you could do that right now,
and
with Derrick Henry.
F-bombs louder.
Yeah, you could force Tennessee to pay him $13 million a year when they don't want to come near that right now, because they don't want to let Derrick Henry walk.
No, well they can't.
So
right?
that's why the
is their
transition
team.
tag is risky. I agree.
It's
with you.
fascinating. I don't see anybody doing that, offer sheeting that, just because it's. I don't know. You could make a great case for Tampa. I get it. Right. That way you don't have to throw the ball as much as Winston throws the ball and have it picked off and returned for touchdowns.
Yeah,
a record 7 times.
Did he really finish 30-30 this year?
30.
Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
Unbelievable. Amazing.
yeah.
Here's the other thing, Mike. A lot of this stuff that we talk about when it relates to transition and franchise tags was all from an age when teams were up against the cap, and a lot of teams did it because
right.
if we give them a lot of money, they can't afford to match it. I think those discussions are irrelevant now, aren't they?
So are you saying pay him?
Well,
Pay
I'm
'em
just
both?
saying in general, it's no longer a tool to do what you're
Oh, you're
talking
preaching to the
about.
choir there.
to try to affect another team when every other team in the league has $50 million in cap space.
But conversely, because of everything we've seen, because of everything you just said, Paul, the multi-year contract has become front-loaded. So if you're going to do that, why not just do a franchise tag, which is the most front-loaded
Yes,
one-year
true.
contract you can offer?
Absolutely.
Right? If Tannehill will sign a $27 million franchise tag,
think he would.
you do it.
Yeah.
Because that's perfect for both parties.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
One of the other things, too, when it comes to recruiting free agents, if you will,
Yeah.
and players, if they see that they won't pay Derrick Henry, right? I mean,
I think it's becoming less and less of a thing, though, because everybody knows the writing on the
Really?
wall with that position.
Ask the
look,
Jaguars.
Boston Scott was a factor yesterday, Kevin.
okay. That's true. That is true. And I was just say, ask the Jaguars about recruiting players. If that news, we'll see how that resonates.
To me,
in
though,
the
Kevin,
offseason.
I sometimes think that's a little overrated because it's all about how much you're going to pay him and how much playing time is.
I mean,
there.
the Browns
and
got
all
guys,
that
right?
all that other stuff, all
Right.
that other stuff is, I think, media fodder. Guys are going to go where
Yeah.
they're going to get paid and where they're going to have a chance to play. And players have said that for years, and that's pretty much the only reasons guys. That's why guys sign with what people perceive to be the worst teams in the league because they can have a chance to play. All guys want to play.
But Paul, how many times in your career, with the TV camera by your side and a microphone in your hand, well, it's not about the money.
Yeah,
Right?
I know. Which
Anytime
is why we both learned in our
Right.
long
I can
careers
tell
that
you
most of it's
flat out, it's
BS.
about the money.
It's all BS.
It's every time I've ever heard that.
I
I'm
really
like,
want to be here. I really, I want to be. Come on. We all knew that guy had his car packed and idling at the kickoff of the final game of the year.
it's always about the money. Who had the U-Haul? It was a Falcon, wasn't it?
Oh, God, I remember this.
It
For
wasn't
some
a former
reason,
Bill?
former Bill Darryl Talley sticks in my mind.
Yeah,
there
that's-
may have been some
Yes.
story related to that.
I wanted to
yes.
say Daryl
that he
Talley.
came to the game with a U-Haul with all his stuff packed, right?
Yeah, yes. I believe that's correct.
Incredible.
Yeah, his final game in Atlanta.
That's basically Garrett Cole in Houston, right? He didn't even walk off the mound and he changed his hat.
Yeah.
All right, real quick on running backs. Let's finish it with my tweet. I put out 7 running backs that I wasn't sure about next year. Just say stays or goes. Todd Gurley,
I think he stays because they're too committed to him.
Le'Veon,
Gone.
David Johnson.
Gone, right? I mean, why would you
Kenyon,
keep him?
Can't
you
stay
signed
healthy,
Drake,
right?
You signed
Yeah.
Drake.
Yeah.
Devontae Freeman, Atlanta. They seem to be keeping everybody.
Yeah.
Why?
Same
I
coach
think
means
they-
I think they keep him.
I think they keep him. New offensive coordinator, right? They're getting rid of Dirk Cutter, allegedly.
Fournette. Is he going to be one of the Jacksonville cuts?
Boy.
Aside from the fact
been a
that
mess.
his production hasn't been
Right.
consistent and he's been a problem child at times, I think if they get rid of Marone, a new coach probably comes in there and goes, I need better than this.
If they get rid of Marone.
Well,
They haven't yet, by the way.
Yet.
I
That's
just
why-
saw Pat
that's why I
Shermer got
said it.
axed. Pat
Pat Shermer
Shermer's
did get
gone.
fired?
It sounds
All right.
like Callahan's out in Washington. Yeah,
Right.
so obviously Kitchens.
Yeah, it looks like Rivera to Washington.
Yeah, Bruce Allen
we
out.
all know about Kitchens.
Beautiful.
Right.
And
Boy,
then-
to me, by the way, not to drift off topics, Mike McCarthy seems a lock for Cleveland on every front possible. Relationship
Sure.
with Dorsey, ability to walk into that building with a Super Bowl ring.
Wait,
and
does Dorsey last?
I think Dorsey lasts. I do, honestly.
Wow.
I just think there's this perception or reality in Cleveland that they just change people every year, and you got to think the owners have got to have looked around the league and seen teams that don't do that and said we have to stop doing this.
Yeah.
Yet they
So-
did it.
Well, they did it with the coach, which is why you keep the GM. I think, even though he's the one who hired him.
You don't think Lincoln Riley's a serious candidate?
I'm not. I don't know.
I gotta-
He might be.
You'd think he'd have to be,
He's
right?
got to be, right?
To get Baker
I
Mayfield
mean, Baker
right?
had a mess of a year.
But they made that mistake once already by hiring a Baker guy. I think McCarthy comes in there with some respect and some background because that's a volatile locker room. That's what everybody ignored this year, which was you put an inexperienced coach in there into an incredibly volatile locker room with Landry and Mayfield and Beckham.
Myles
we
Garrett
all
situation.
knew that wasn't going to work. We all knew it wasn't going to work.
I guess my only knock on McCarthy in Cleveland right now is Cleveland's got to run the freaking ball. I mean, they've got 2 stalwarts. Chubb almost won the rushing title, and Kareem Hunt can do whatever he really wants right now. And McCarthy's not going to run. But if you need to fix Baker, that's probably not a bad place to start.
By the way, how much did Baker get for the was it State Farm?
Oh my God! If I
Is it
saw
the-
another Baker Mayfield commercial,
Is it State Farm? Is I don't know what
Look at-
Progressive.
Progressive.
The
Progressive.
Browns.
and then there was another one that he was
he's all
in,
over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, to me, for those companies who spend a lot of, it's an embarrassment.
The Browns,
it's an
the Browns lost
embarrassment.
this year, but Baker Mayfield
Progressive
won.
should be embarrassed that we were beaten over the head by an incredible amount of stupid commercials with one of the biggest failures in the NFL this year. I would have pulled the plug on every one of those Mayfield commercials halfway through the season.
They make the buy in the summer, man.
Well, that doesn't mean you can't
No,
pull them.
let's get to it. Let's get to the over-unders. This is why Baker Mayfield was getting commercials. The Browns are supposed to win 9 games this year.
Yes.
9.
Have we not all learned our lesson?
They won
That's Vegas.
6.
That's not us. Vegas said 9.
Well, because Vegas was fueling a fan tidal wave of everybody thinking Cleveland was the hot team. Have we not all learned our lesson that
Baltimore-
never happens?
Baltimore's over-under was 8.
Yeah.
And Cleveland's was 9.
Bills 7.5. So the ones they missed big time on. Boy, they had the Cardinals right there at 5.5. They had 5. Falcons 8.5. There might have been someone here's team. If I recall, somebody was all in on the Falcons at the beginning of the year.
And the Jets, so.
That was you.
Yeah, I had a
right?
great year.
Okay, sorry. I don't. I that's not in my notes to bring up. I just like the Falcons.
I could
8.5.
justify the Ravens pick because none of us, nobody
Sure.
even knew what
You're
Lamar
right.
Jackson could become.
You're right. Also,
Buffalo-
they changed everything.
I thought 7.5 was right about there for the Bills too, and they
I
won
thought it
some
was a
tight
little
games.
low. I thought it was a game or two low. I thought they were going to be better than that, and that's kind of where it went. It was 2.5 games low.
Panthers 8 games, they won 5. Bears 9, they won 8. Bengals 5.5, and they won 2. Yeah, I wonder if Vegas would put out how much they got sacked on these. Like they probably lost a lot of money on the Bengals.
I mean, what are the stats here?
They made a lot on the
17
Browns,
unders,
Yes.
14 overs. 17 unders. So if you parlayed some unders, you did well here.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Texans, I bet you they lost money. Well, no, 10 games. I
Look
wouldn't
at the
touch.
Packers.
I wouldn't touch 8 with the Texans. I wouldn't have
Packers,
touched 9
4-game
with the
difference.
Packers. Right?
Yeah.
Colts 9.5. They went under at 7. Kansas City Chiefs, they went over the 10.5 with 12. Boy, the Chargers and Rams.
Yes.
They probably the Rams.
This is where they got killed.
They probably got killed, right? I would think a lot of people bet the under on the Chargers.
I think the Chargers, to me, are the biggest failure surprise of the league. I think we all sat here in the summertime and looked at the Chargers and said, that is a team that is ready to be good. They've got all the pieces in place. They were coming off a good year the year before. They're a shock to me that they fell apart. What we all ignored was a really bad offensive line that's never been fixed and the deterioration of Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, there's no question.
But to me, I would have. This is why I don't bet. I would have put some money on the Chargers being really good this year, and look what it would have done to me because, and again, here's the other thing with the over-unders. Every year, a quarter of the league change. The playoff teams change.
Yeah.
Every year. It's that. I don't know how many years that goes back, Mike. You could look that up.
good
But
stuff.
every year, a quarter of the playoff teams change. So why is it that every year we ignore that and just assume the same teams that were good one year are going to be good again the next year? You're better off playing which underrated teams you think are going to be the ones to emerge than you are playing the good teams that you think are going to stay good.
Well, let's not forget something here too with Vegas on this. Their goal is to pick a number that gets action on both
That's right.
sides.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's
No
why
goal.
there's no 12s.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
Action
There's no
on
12.
both sides. So
Right, no
they had
question.
some decent numbers.
Let's finish with the team.
I want you to go back to the quarterbacks, though. Can we?
I'm going to go there right now. Why did the Patriots trade Jimmy Garoppolo?
Oh my gosh! Right?
I really want to talk about this. Is this going to be in the book? Is this going to be in Belichick's book? I mean, Brady
Yes.
forced this, right?
I
Brady
think it
forced
does.
this entire situation,
Yes,
correct?
I think it does.
There's no question.
Had they so what you're
Brady
saying,
wanted to play 3 more years, and he forced Garoppolo out of town, right?
So what you're saying with that is, had Garoppolo stayed, had they kept him, they would have moved on from Brady sooner.
I think there's no question.
Yeah, what Mike is saying is Belichick probably wanted to do that.
You don't
and
draft that guy.
and couldn't do it.
You don't draft that guy in the second round to flip him. You just don't. You just don't. The Patriots
Sure.
clearly did their homework and knew that he was going to be that kind of player.
Right.
I mean, he's got a charisma. He's got it.
Okay, well here's my question: if you're the Patriots, my question to the Patriots, if that was the case,
Yeah.
And if you believe he's going to be that good, why trade him?
Because you had to keep paying him.
I think Brady forced their hand.
Did he?
I do. That's what I'm.
But what I'm saying is, if he's going to be that good, and you know it, and Tom
Do
forces
you release
your hand,
Tom Brady?
Tom, here's the deal.
Doesn't this
You're either
smack
play or retire.
Right. Doesn't this smack of you of what we've discussed here before, which is the original Brady-Bledsoe decision?
Yeah.
Isn't this the same thing? We've talked about how I've read books that have said Belichick wanted to bench Bledsoe in that second year as head coach, and he couldn't do it. Bob Kraft wouldn't let him do it. He didn't have enough juice at the time to do it, but he knew that Brady was the better quarterback, and thankfully Mo Lewis of the Jets saved him by knocking out Bledsoe. Isn't this the same thing? Doesn't Belichick look at it and go, Garoppolo's better, I can be better, build better, but how is it that I walk away from the greatest quarterback in NFL history? Or he goes to Bob Kraft and says, I want to do this, and Kraft says, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, that because Brady had won 4 Super Bowls.
Also 3 years ago, Brady was probably better than Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
I mean, Brady had an MVP
but
season. But
aren't the
2 years
Patriots
ago.
always the team that gets rid of guys a year or two early?
That's why I bring this up. It's such an un-Patriots-like thing to do. Trading Jacoby Brissett, fine. That's fine. You got value from a backup quarterback. Right. But Jimmy was clearly the next guy. That's clearly why you drafted him where you drafted him.
They're also the defending Super Bowl champions. So I'm just saying.
I'm not knocking Brady at all here.
So I'm just saying, like, in the short term, it's
worked out fine.
It's worked out fine, but you didn't need to move him. You didn't need to move him.
I guess, Kevin, my point in bringing it up here is I think there's going to be a void next year. I think Brady walks away, and they've got, Jared Stidham? Is that his guy? Is that his name?
Yeah. From Auburn.
Is it going to be Andy Dalton? Right? I mean, what's going to be this transition? I think they had the perfect transition in place, is my point. They could have kept this thing rolling with Belichick, and I don't think that's the case now. I think there's going to be a void.
You're burying the lead here a little bit. You're convinced that Brady retires, walks away?
It just feels like it, right?
Okay.
I'm never going to put money on it, but it just feels like it. And maybe to our point, maybe the Patriots basically say, we got to stop this now.
Yeah.
Right? We got to do better for us here, right? Not that getting, what is the 3 seed? Are they the 3 seed?
They're the
4 seed.
4 seed.
No, they're the 3 seed.
They're the 3 seed, right.
3
right,
seed.
Right,
I mean,
Texans are the 4
they're
seed.
fine. 12 wins.
Right. I mean, they're fine. They've won 12
and they still
games.
might, and a month from now, we might still be sitting
That's
here
right.
talking about them being in the Super Bowl.
Foot and mouth.
As much as we don't think so, we've all learned our lesson to know don't bury them until they're dead.
But even still, I'm thinking next year, and if Brady does walk away, I just don't see their plan.
Well, their plan is waiting for Tom to make a decision. They're not going to tell Brady you're done.
Yeah, I guess
Tom's going to tell them by trading Garoppolo. They just put it all in Brady's hands. Like, you're going to tell us when you're done.
Yeah,
that's it. Period.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're overthinking it. Maybe that's exactly what happened.
And listen,
we got this guy. We can get a second rounder for him. We're going to do it because we have you.
Right. And if Brady goes out and they make the AFC Championship, let's say.
Yeah.
Or God, I almost said God forbid they make the Super Bowl again. Why does that even matter?
It doesn't matter.
No, but they make the Super Bowl again. I'm just thinking, how are they going to make the Super Bowl? They just don't seem like that team this year. But their defense is good.
Yeah.
Their defense is good, and they have the best quarterback ever under center.
Who knows how to play this?
Knows how to play.
Yeah, I think we'd all be foolish to automatically assume they're not going to.
Maybe the ultimate clutch quarterback.
Doesn't part of you just want them to get there so that we can officially say he's the greatest quarterback of all time? Like, there's no discussion after that.
There's no
Jordan.
There's no Jordan
discussion
LeBron.
now.
There's
no discussion.
People
still waver.
now.
People still waver.
Well, they're foolish to waver. I mean, the guy's unbelievable.
Overall, looking at the quarterback thing, I think the thing that jumps out at me, and this is not unusual. We've talked about this before. There are the exceptions of Brady, and even Breeze and Cousins. Sure. But you got to get your quarterback in the first round. We've evolved to that point in the NFL where if you don't get your quarterback in the first round, you generally don't win.
Wait a second. The greatest quarterback ever was taken
199.
20 years ago, Kevin.
Okay, and Garoppolo
was 10 years ago.
Let's run through this list.
Listen, a potential Super Bowl matchup could be number 199 against his former protege.
But Brady skews
62.
any discussions of these and will forever, which to me is he's an outlier, not any kind of norm.
I mean, all right, Ravens, Lamar Jackson, 32nd overall.
Yeah.
Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 10, moved up to get him. which moved up to interesting Buffalo. You got two teams in here, and boy, it'd be great if they met in the second. Can they meet in the second round? Mm-hmm. They can. If they met in the second round, the quarterback comparisons in that game will be because Buffalo basically passed on Mahomes.
Yep.
Yeah.
To the Chiefs by making the trade to select Allen the following year. They moved up for
if
7th
Tennessee
overall.
beats New England, then the Bills would play if the Bills win, they would play the Chiefs.
Patriots, again, Brady, we've talked about. Texans, Watson, 12th overall. What a great pick that was, by the way. The Titans, Tannehill, it was selected by Miami, 8th overall. Garoppolo, 62nd by New England. Aaron Rodgers, 24th by the Packers. Saints, Drew Brees was taken 32nd overall by
He was a
San
second
Diego.
rounder, though. Was there only
I don't
31
think
teams?
that's
at the
correct.
time?
Back then.
Okay.
Yep.
Back then, second rounder.
Yep.
Russ Wilson, 75th overall. That's the third round.
Yep.
Third round.
Third round. Him and Cousins was a fourth rounder.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins 102nd, and boy, there's relief there making the playoffs. Yeah. Right? With all that money. And Carson Wentz second overall by Philly. And give Carson Wentz a lot of credit.
All the credit.
He carried that team.
I
to
saw
the
a
playoffs.
really cool stat. He's the first
too.
quarterback. Was it 4,000 yards without a 500-yard receiver?
That's incredible.
Incredible. That's incredible.
And no run game.
And
And no run game. I mean, Jordan Howard is their number one. It's just
And then Miles Sanders gets hurt
But wait a
yesterday,
second.
too.
That little motor Scott there.
he had
Austin
a heck of a
Scott.
game.
Unbelievable.
That's about all you can say.
Right. He was like, who is this guy?
So you just ran down the numbers. There's no number one overall pick here. Okay, Wentz barely got in as the number 2 overall pick. Otherwise, it would have been
That's
Dak, which was the third rounder, right?
Wow.
There's one top 5 drafted player quarterback in the playoffs right now. One. Josh Allen is the second highest drafted quarterback in the playoffs in the postseason right now.
Wow. But what does it show you? It shows you for the teams to move up and get that quarterback early.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Sans Trubisky, but yeah.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, but Kansas City, right?
No question.
They did it with Mahomes. The Bills did it with Allen. The Eagles, Wentz, right? They moved up to get Wentz, right? Second overall.
Yes, they did. They moved up twice to get ranked.
Moved up twice. So if you have your target on a quarterback and you move up, it proves to be worth it here with some young players.
And again, to my point is that's where good quarterbacks come from, and it's changed even more so now that if you think you got a guy that you like, you don't wait anymore.
I think
you take them in the first round.
Yeah.
So some of those guys that are on that list that didn't go in the first round would go in the first round now.
There's no question, and I think that point is amplified by looking at the running backs and the wide receivers here. We don't have to run through all of these, but I mean, you can guess where these guys have been drafted. I'm talking about
How many first round running backs?
RB1s. What is there?
I'm
One?
just looking through your list.
Ingram. That's it.
And that's it.
Ingram and Sony Michel.
Sony Michel.
That's it. And Sony Michel is barely a player on that team right now. But everybody else is late second, mid third, and fourth for these.
How about receiver, right? There's 3. Brown with the Ravens.
What's interesting about the receivers is all of the first rounders are late first rounders.
Yep. Brown,
Yes.
Hopkins.
Even you had that 2014 class where you had 5 like top 15. Remember that? The Sammy Watkins, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry.
Now,
none of them are in the playoffs.
Watkins is with the Chiefs. He's not their number 1.
He's not their number 2.
Yeah.
And if you add Kelsey, he's not their number 3.
number 3. Yep.
True. Well, yeah, a couple of these teams, the top 2 seeds in the AFC, their top receivers are tight end.
There's no question.
So what is that telling you? Is that telling you that you must use your first round picks on quarterbacks and linemen
And edge defenders.
and
edge
everybody
defenders.
else you can get?
You should wait.
The skill position guys you can get other places
Because you want depth. Right? I mean, we're singling out the WR1s here, but you need WR3s.
Yeah, and
you
need,
just
and
do.
you need RB1s and RB2s.
Yeah, and you don't want to have high caps, high cash on any of those guys because you need to be able to spread it out.
This is really interesting stuff as we shift our gears to draft season. That people need to keep this stuff in mind, and you need to understand as you're starting to think about the draft, and you're hearing everybody throw all kinds of things around about wide receivers and all this stuff. The reality, it isn't there. Ignore all that chatter and look at the facts. Look at the reality. You can get your number 1 receiver in the second round. You can get your number 1 running back in the third round. So anybody that tells you differently, they're wrong. There's always exceptions. I get that. But mostly, they're wrong, and don't buy into all that.
I mean, just run through the recent drafts and first-round running backs. I love watching all of them play, right? But Christian McCaffrey's not there. Leonard Fournette's not there. Josh Jacobs is not there. Saquon Barkley is not there. They're not playing in January. So, I mean, what do you do with that?
How many of these quarterbacks do you question their contract status going forward?
The quarterbacks?
Quarterback. He essentially
Playoff quarterbacks?
yeah, Brady,
Breeze?
Tannehill. Sure, what's going to happen with him, right? He'll get a contract, but what's it going to be? Kirk, yeah, right. Kirk Cousins,
Possibly.
Well, I mean, if he flames out here in the wild card,
He's
game,
guaranteed next year. I guess I wouldn't have too much question with Kirk Cousins next year. Really, it's just Brady and Breeze, guys. That's it. Tannehill's going to get a tag at least, right? Everybody else is locked in.
Okay.
Wentz, Russell, Garoppolo could get a new deal. It might be time for a new deal for $27 million a year, and he's already got most of the cash paid out. He might be clamoring for more money out there.
I guess what I'm saying is it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Jackson, Allen.
Well, Mahomes is up. Mahomes and Watson can be extended after this right now, actually,
and
today.
they will be. And
today.
They will be.
I don't know. Like we talked about this.
Oh, because of the cap. Yeah,
do they wait for the new CBA? Right.
That would be smart.
There's a lot to talk
The
about.
players are going to want to wait.
I think the players wait.
Yeah,
I
not
think the
teams,
players
but
wait.
the players.
Yeah.
Yes, the teams are going to want to throw the money at them now. Players wait. It would be a smart move. All right. Are we going to before we go to we got a lot of year in review stuff to do, and we'll bring Scott Allen in for that.
Want to make Super Bowl picks?
Yeah, we got to make our picks here.
Yeah.
All right. So, and you have the Chiefs for what it's worth of plus 750.
That was available last night. That's crazy.
So explain that to everybody who's not a degenerate gambler.
I mean, it's essentially 7.5 to 1. So if you put down
That's a pretty good
$200, you can make $1,500.
That's a pretty good bet.
That's a pretty good team.
Yeah.
I know we've knocked that defense. That defense is pretty good for 8 weeks.
That's a pretty good bet. Plus 750 on the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'd put that kind of money on Patrick Mahomes, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
If we were just basing this off of quarterbacks,
Is that at our local sports book? Because I might actually go do that.
I would try to get that number for sure. But I'm not going to pick the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I did a podcast where I'd run numbers a couple weeks ago.
So who do you like out of the AFC?
Yeah, I base it on spending because spending patterns generally work. It just does. That's how the Patriots have built their system. And I know it's hard to base anything off the Patriots model, but teams have been trying to do it. And teams that are spending in the middle right now are Seattle and Baltimore. So that's my pick.
That's your Super Bowl pick.
That's
Seattle
it right there.
and Baltimore.
That's it.
Paul?
I like the Chiefs. I think Andy Reid makes a huge difference. Their defense has played much better lately, and you still have all of those weapons on offense. I think as we hit the playoffs, I think someone is going to figure out how to slow Lamar Jackson down, and I don't know that the Ravens are going to be reactive enough to that. So I like the Chiefs, and I like the Niners. That defense, but the defensive line is awesome. They were in Russell Wilson's face all night last night in the game on Sunday night, and then you throw Garoppolo and their emerging offensive weapons like Sanders and that core of running backs, and Kittle is amazing.
Yes.
Kittle is awesome. I think Green Bay being the number 2 seed, getting potentially 1 and maybe 2 home games is big too, but I think they're a little more of a flawed team. I like San Francisco a lot.
My bet would be Green Bay, Kansas City. If I'm going to put money on because of the odds I could get, I think those 2 teams would be my money bet.
I am going to go solely on what I think is going to be the most entertaining Super Bowl.
Okay. So you want San Francisco, New England?
No.
Come on.
No. That has storylines.
Sure.
They'd all have storylines, but I would love to see. Well, would I like to see Brady and Breeze? Yes, I think that'd be cool. But I think it'll be the Chiefs and the Saints. And I think that would be an electric Super Bowl. I think it would be great.
It's good.
And I would pick the Saints in that.
It's in Miami.
Yeah, I'll tell you, here's the other reason why. I believe in the playoffs. I mean, you've got to stop the run, and all teams will be focusing on doing that. And your quarterback's got to make plays. And we're talking about 2 of the best quarterbacks to make plays here. And Aaron Rodgers is in that category, too, with Green Bay. I don't know. Chiefs and Saints.
By the way, you mentioned the Bledsoe-Brady situation. Has anybody thwarted that more than Breeze this year? I mean, Bridgewater was ready.
The single most important moment
Bridgewater
in NFL
was ready.
history.
He was ready. Bridgewater was ready to take that team over. He was, 6 in a row? Did he win?
For the when
the
he
Saints.
plays
This year.
sounds about at least 5.
And then Breeze came back and said, no. He came back early and said, give me the ball. I'm ready.
He came back a week before their bye.
And he was magnificent for the rest of the year. So, I mean, he's not ready to go
Teddy
yet.
Bridgewater could be New England's starting quarterback next year, too.
Very possible.
Yeah.
But out of the AFC, we believe there's three teams that could come out, right? Out of the NFC, I think there's 4.
Oh, no, I think the AFC's wide open.
You think it's wide open?
Wide open.
I think it's either the Ravens, Chiefs, or Patriots. I don't think the Texans, Bills, or Titans have a chance.
I agree with you, Kevin.
I'm wide open on that. I don't think anybody gets blown out in this divisional series. No way.
Oh, I don't think there's any blowout.
I think it's going to be
the
dead
best
tight here.
overall team in that group is Kansas City.
Fair enough.
Offense, defense.
Bet 'em, Paul.
Well,
the odds are great.
I think Baltimore's great, and it wouldn't shock me if they're the one. I think New England's got just too many flaws, and I think all the other teams have too many flaws as well too.
NFC. I think there's 4. The Niners, Packers, Saints, Seahawks. None would surprise me.
Sure.
Me neither.
Going.
Me neither.
Vikings and Eagles would surprise me.
Seattle limped a little bit towards the end of the regular season. Lost 3 of their last 4. The running game is a situation that's a problem for them. So I think not being at home that was a big loss for them Sunday night. They blew their chance to play in their home stadium, which is a huge advantage for them. I think that
blew their chance. They played the Niners.
Yeah, well, they win that game and they got home playoff.
And it was close.
That game was a delay of game call away.
Oh, that delay of game call was
Yeah.
a monstrous
All I've heard about
penalty.
is the pass interference non-call.
No,
that delay of game
because
cost them the game.
you brought Marshawn Lynch in to give him the ball.
That's it. It's
and
over.
then you just took him out
The
because
game
you
is
couldn't.
over
Yep.
if they don't have that penalty. It's
Agreed.
over.
Completely agreed.
All comes down to one play for the Seahawks again with Marshawn. Huh?
Yeah. And once again, have we not learned our lesson to stop obsessing and arguing over pass interference calls?
No, they just got to get rid of the review.
Yeah, well, whatever. But
that's
why waste? Why are we wasting?
That's
our
the
time
nail in the
about
coffin
it?
right there. If you're not going to review that, get rid of the review. Right?
Agreed.
Get rid of it. We're done.
Agreed. But
We're
the
done.
reviews are irrelevant anyway.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Let's just put them to bed.
Before we get to review,
Yeah, our review.
Your Ed review, want to mention that this episode is brought to you by The Athletic. The subscription-based sports news site delivers in-depth sports coverage for real fans. Get detailed coverage for every trade, free agent signing, and storyline on your team, as well as expert analysis from national writers like Ken Rosenthal, Michael Lombardi, and Pierre LeBrun. Pierre will be a good follow here coming up as we get to the NHL trade deadline, the months leading up to it. A lot of great stuff there. Plus, deep insights from analytics gurus and former team executives like John Hollinger and Seth Parthnow. Join today, 40% off your yearly subscription. Go to theathletic.com/SpotTrack40off. Again, that's theathletic.com/SPOTRAC40 off. All right, time now for Spotrac's year-end in review for 2019, and we are joined now by Scott Allen, not only NBA guru, but a big part behind the scenes of Spotrac.com. Scott, good to have you with us.
Yeah, great to be here again.
You missed our Super Bowl pick, so we'll have to get yours real quick. Which 2 teams do you think meet in the Super Bowl?
I'll go with San Francisco, and I will go with I know Baltimore's the heavy favorite, but I think something happens. I'll go with the Chiefs.
All right.
Love you, Scott. Love you.
And where are you in Fitzpatrick, Scott?
Is this going to be an every week thing, by the way? Or
No.
are you just going to figure out a way to
No,
keep
but Josh
trying to
Rosen did get traded, Paul.
trying to rub my nose in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I'm just going to keep throwing his career record right back at you.
By the way, we didn't discuss this real quick. The Josh Rosen from last year. Is there one this year? There's no way Cleveland gives up on Baker, right?
No.
All right.
No, I think
No more conversation then.
Yeah.
I still owe you guys lunch, by the way. I do.
You do. That is
still.
correct.
I do owe you lunch for. I'll admit I was wrong, Scott. I was wrong about the whole Kyler Murray, Josh Rosen thing. So I do. I should have done it when you were here last week. Got you involved too.
You know, we're gonna.
That would have been great.
We're going to forward that to 2020,
Yeah.
and you'll take us to lunch, and we'll do our futures bet for baseball.
I like it.
While,
Okay.
while we do that. Okay. In 2019, most viewed players on Spotrac, and this is the top 5.
This is the least trivial list ever.
Right.
Is the world all about the superstars?
If you had to
or
pick
not?
one player from every sport, this would probably be it, right?
Brady. Yeah, go ahead, Scott, on this. Brady's number 1,
I was
by
going
the
to
way.
say, yeah, Brady's number 1, but I don't think anyone would have guessed number 2.
True.
I would agree with that.
That's true.
It's Mike Trout from the Angels.
Mike Trout, and he was there because of that huge extension he signed, and in the beginning of the year, everyone jumped to check him out, and it just sort of trended that way for the rest of the season. Then the following 3, 4, and 5, we have NBA, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and Giannis. So,
Hey, Scott, where are we trending for next year, do you think? I mean, this was just I think a once-in-a-lifetime NBA offseason. Don't you agree with that? It's going to be much less exciting this offseason, even if there's a couple of decent trades. I mean, from a site perspective, from a data perspective, but also just from a fan perspective, is this kind of like a one-and-done year for the NBA offseason?
I don't know. The NBA jumped so much this year from all the data that I looked at. They were one of the highest traffic part of the site, and it may be because of the 2020 free agency class is not great. It may just be a trend that NBA is going to get close to NFL numbers with the global entity that they're trying to build. So we'll have to see. We haven't seen the NBA grow as much as it did, and out of all the sports, really, they grew the most. So I think they'll take a step back next year, but I still think with how everything is projecting, they may be towards the top again.
I still think the NBA does the best job of marketing its stars than any other league around. And the way I judge that is I'll look at my sons who are sports fans, and they know NBA players, but they don't watch the NBA.
Also, if we can jump down to the most viewed teams, the Warriors are third on the list. And generally that's going to be because of the first half of 2019, right, when all of those players were still together. But then you had an offseason where everybody left, essentially. And now you've got an injured Warriors team. So if you flash forward to 2020, let's say Steph comes back. Scott, when is Steph coming back? Is he going to come back in 2020?
From what I've heard, it's 50-50, I would guess.
So probably not.
They may just shut him down for the rest of the year. I mean, they're even saying Clay. There's a chance that Clay comes back.
Oh, that's just dumb.
It'd be dumb.
I mean,
so let's say they don't, Scott, because you know where I'm going with this. If the Warriors have the number one pick, I mean, the NBA's back, right? I mean, that's going to be everything.
Sure.
You're now going to add the best prospect available with Clay and Draymond and Steph, who are all under contract. So this whole thing could just turn over in a matter of 6 months.
Steph's more pissed that his golf game is affected by the injury than the basketball game.
I think the interesting thing about the most viewed teams is, I sometimes fans, and I'll admit I'm one of them. You get beaten down by the same teams all over. You get beaten down. You get beaten down by seeing the same teams on national TV. You get beaten down by them talking about the same teams all the time. And we've all screamed at the television, there are 31 other teams in the NFL besides the Cowboys. But you look at this list, and it's Patriots, Lakers, Warriors, Yankees, Cowboys. There's a reason for it. There's a reason why the TV networks react to that. There's a reason why those teams are on your list, Mike. People that say, how many more Red Sox-Yankee games do I have to watch on Sunday night? Hey, this is why. It's the reality. It's business. It's money. They generate the most attention, which means the most ad sales, which means the most sponsorships. If you're not a fan of one of those teams and you're someone who never once went to Spotrac for one of those teams, I feel for you.
I applaud you.
But you have to understand the reality of how all this works.
That's true.
And on top of that, I mean, out of these 5 teams, if you go back and look at essentially the podcast from the last year here, these are the 5 teams that dominated the conversation, whether it be LeBron at the Lakers and Anthony Davis going to the Lakers, or like you said, the Warriors being injured and with Durant leaving.
Dak
We've got
Prescott,
the Cowboys. We've had Dak and Zeke and Amari Cooper, and then the Patriots with their new gate and stealing video and with Gronk and Tom Brady, whether he retires or not, and he looks like he's 60 years old out there. And I mean, these teams have dominated the conversation for the last year, and it reflects here.
And I don't see it changing next year. I mean,
I don't either.
Garrett Cole on the Yankees is going to drive, a ton more eyes on that. The whole Cowboy. I mean, I tweeted a list of the free agents on the Cowboys.
Whoever their
right
new
now.
coach is.
There's like a 12-man UFA list for the Cowboys right now. I mean, they could completely flip that roster if they needed to.
Does that include their coach?
I'll
His
say we all
contract's up.
think they're going to have a new coach, right?
Yes.
Probably they'll be in the market by the end of the
I mean,
day
if it's
today,
Urban
right?
Meyer,
I'll tell you what,
the Cowboys
that would
are
be
gonna-
amazing.
are not gonna be
or
fifth
Lincoln
next
Riley.
year.
Either one will
Yes.
will generate a lot of attention.
yes.
You guys were busy in 2019 with some new additions, and I know it wasn't easy adding all these things. I think Mike, you took on the WNBA, and
it's
Scott
one-
did the PGA.
Yeah, the WNBA edition was one I'm most proud of. We've been trying to get female sports on the Spotrac for years and years, and I've reached out and I've tried to make relationships with the leagues, and I've had a couple of decent phone calls. This is a situation where I was able to deal with a gentleman who had access to this data to some degree. We worked out a partnership so that I could at least get it on the site because I just want it to be out there. I just do, and I keep reading these stories about the women's soccer teams and how they're doing incredible work to try to get equal pay, and it's in all the conversations that this stuff has to become more public, and yet they refuse to go to a site like us. It was the first sentence I gave to the women's soccer league was, I know you probably don't know who I am, but a lot of people do use Spotrac,
Sure, right.
and just having, I understand that salaries are not big, but just having them there will drive attention to your league,
Right.
attention to the players, increase the brand of the players because they can speak to it. They need to speak to it.
It's embarrassingly low. It's
that's
probably
fine.
what they're
But-
probably afraid of seeing how
And I understand
embarrassed
that.
how little they're being
But
paid.
they shouldn't be embarrassed because the
Right.
revenue matches it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, of course it's got to come up, and of course there should be equal pay for the men and the women. I mean, I don't think anybody in this room disagrees with that. But I'm proud to get the WNBA on the site because there's at least visibility to it. We can all now speak to it with numbers and not just say, oh, the women are underpaid, they don't make as much money. That's fine, but let's have a real conversation about the real numbers. So I'm hoping that 2020 brings more of this. I want to get more female sports on the site for sure, just to have the conversation.
And Scott, you did not just adding 2019 PGA, but you went back.
I went back.
Yeah, you did yeoman's work here. Explain what you did with PGA.
Yeah, so we have all PGA salaries from 1980 and forward. So we can run metrics on who won the most at the Masters, or who, like we did the decade, who won the most during this last decade. So a lot of good information there.
Yeah, Scott pulled in not only just the earnings, but also the day-to-day scores. So we can run some Thursday numbers, and we can do some value work based on how a player scored in the Masters. What's Rory's Masters scoring versus earnings and all that stuff.
Sure.
We can do some really fun stuff.
I'll take Freddie Couples on a Thursday, Friday in the Masters.
There you go.
But the weekend, no.
There you go.
Like even now.
Can you DFS a different guy every day? Like a 4-man rotation? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Well,
Does that game exist?
the daily fantasy I know with golf is you can do.
Or do you have to run one guy throughout the whole weekend?
No,
you know what I'm saying?
you run several guys. Usually you pick 5 guys.
Yeah.
5 or 6 guys.
Yeah, but here's my
From Thursday to Sunday.
But can you
and then,
designate your Thursday guy and your Friday guy?
Oh,
and your
no.
That should
No.
come. That should be a thing.
That should be a thing.
'Cause
What
you're
you can
right.
do
Some
daily,
guys play better on Friday.
No, you can. I believe many sports books you can go in and bet daily. Like, hey, I'm going to bet
Sure.
Roy McIlroy to finish top 5 today.
Sure.
or whatever. You can do that.
It's good.
But DFS, I don't think that's an option yet. Well, you can create that game.
It's coming.
Yeah, and then you could bet weekend.
Sure.
You can bet the weekend, which is probably the smarter way to go.
Yeah.
Especially in large field events when you got 144 to 154 golfers and you're trying to pick. You got guys. Listen, guys. The most impressive streak in golf to me is Tiger Woods' consecutive cuts made streak. That's the most impressive thing. You can look at his 15 majors, his 82 wins, which happened in 2019, but the consecutive cuts made, because when he was in the midst of it, he would grind to make a cut. He would grind to make it because it mattered. It mattered to him. Some guys
Even if he had no prayer of winning a tournament,
Right.
he grinded to make the cut.
make the cut. Some guys know that the cut's not going to be made, and they just finish it out because they know that the pool of talent's too deep, I think, to have a streak like that anymore. The grind like that. Major League Baseball luxury tax tracking. Explain this.
That's a big one. We've been tracking payrolls for years and years here, and we finally put the work in to get the legalese down and really understand how this luxury tax structure works. So the site not only offers cash payrolls, of course, but it also offers the luxury tax viewing for all the teams and all the players. So now you can see it's basically an average salary, but with the luxury tax, a lot of buyouts come into play, all the trades come into play. There's money retained, a lot of things that go into it that are for tax purposes only. So we've done essentially a second layer of Major League Baseball finances on Spotrac this past year, now also heading into 2020. So it's important not just to know how much teams are spending cash-wise, but maybe even more important to understand how they're spending towards their luxury tax, which is essentially Major League Baseball's salary cap.
And then explain premium subscribers. They got even more here in 2019.
Yeah, we sort of built this behind the scenes, and it's something we Scott put a lot of work into, and I really don't talk about it too much, not enough really. But we've got spreadsheet style tools. I mean, they kind of combine stats and finances in a ton of ways. You can bring in draft statuses, expiring contracts, ages. I believe we've got like height and weight on some of these things too. If you want to really build out a data set for all the sports, we've got one for every sport.
Who's the richest and tallest athlete in the world?
Yeah, those are the kind of questions we were asking internally, and we basically wanted a tool for ourselves.
Probably.
But what we did is
No, it's LeBron.
It's not Chara.
But you're saying richest and tallest.
Well, I'm saying richest. That's what's cool about it, is you can combine it however you want to.
Yeah.
If you want to know who the richest and tallest is, or the tallest player who's made the most money, right? That's what Mike is saying here.
Most career earnings from the 5th round of a draft, for instance.
So who? All right. See, this is now you've really got.
So those spreadsheet tools are all for those kind of stupid questions that we had all the time and wanted something for ourselves, and then we decided to offer that to premium.
7-footer made the most money?
There you go.
Of all time. I want to know that now. I got Kevin thinking too.
Well,
Scott, help us
playing.
out here.
Still playing.
Was it Dirk? Was Dirk 7
It's
foot?
got to be Dirk.
No, he was 6'10".
Oh, all right.
Why do you know that?
I just know he wasn't 7. He's just shy of 7.
Or flip it around. Who's the shortest? I mean, Muggsy Bogues made some money, but not a ton.
Drew Brees has to be the shortest career earner, right?
In football, I would think. Yeah.
I would imagine.
Russell Wilson surpass him?
Is Russell shorter than Drew Brees?
I think he is, isn't he?
They
might be the same.
I think Russell's 5'10".
Russell's going to catch him then for sure.
Somewhere
Right.
Doug Flutie's getting pissed at this conversation.
No, he's not. He got paid exactly what he was worth.
Right. Darren Sproles.
Hell of a career. Hell of a career there, yeah. Anyway,
We've drifted off the topic.
You can answer all these questions using the premium the spreadsheet grids, which we've got built in at the top bar when you log in as a premium subscriber.
I'm just gonna up both you guys, and it's the guy from the Astros there. I can't even think.
What?
Altuve?
Altuve, shortest. You're saying shortest
yeah.
guy is gonna make the most
5'6".
money. It's gonna be Altuve.
He might. It's going to be close between him and Russell.
Yes.
Russell's going to make some bank here.
Okay.
Yeah, but Altuve's like 3 inches shorter.
Who earned their most
Fair.
money in 2019? NFL. Surprising.
The
name
NFL's
here.
awesome because the guy didn't play this year.
Right. UConn Cornelius.
NBA too.
Yeah,
That's right.
Cornelius.
Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger, $45 million. This is top earning cash dollars in 2019.
Yeah, big old signing bonus there.
Steph Curry, $40.2 million. Baseball, Mike Trout, $36 million, and Mitch Marner. Nobody would have guessed
They
that.
front loaded that deal.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
bonus money because of the tax situation in Canada.
Yep.
With Toronto.
They regret that deal? Coach is already fired.
No, I
can't play defense worth a lick.
Boy,
We talked about this.
Well, there's a story in 2019 that happened end of 2019. The coaching situation in the NHL.
Yeah.
The
Another one fired yesterday, right?
abuse allegations,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, just
Who got fired yesterday? I missed
Boy,
that.
I saw something.
But yeah, guys getting fired not for what's happened
You're right.
on their team's performance on the ice, but for other reasons.
yeah.
2 now, right? With allegations?
Well, what's happening now? The players are the NBA is run by the players, right? Is this not the NHL?
this is a good point to bring up.
Putting their
this is a good
foot
point to
forward
bring
here?
up. You're right.
Right? I mean, this is the NHL players starting to come forward and saying, this doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
It's a systemic thing because some are going back to juniors, like how I was treated in junior hockey, and the culture coming up here. But it'll be interesting to see how this moves forward. If Mike Babcock gets another job somewhere, right? I mean, it'll be interesting.
Tortorella's in another mess.
Right.
There's a
I love
shock.
torts. By the way,
It's a good time of year for hockey. I think it's officially hockey season, right?
I love torts. Let's. I don't even know how to pronounce.
Teams. It's all right. Let's go to the teams.
All right.
Top spending teams of 2019. 3 out of the 4 probably surprise you, right?
Falcons. No, they don't surprise.
If
I
you
would have
weren't
thought
a
the
part of
Rams. I thought the Rams would
Yeah,
have
if
been
you
number
weren't
one.
a part of this show, it would definitely surprise you, though, right?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
to the average eye, the Falcons being the highest spenders, a lot of it's because they front-loaded Julio Jones. They owe Matt Ryan a ton of money. They signed a couple of defensive players. But you're right. The Rams certainly doled out some cash. The problem with what the Rams did, and we can get to it here with contracts of the year soon, is they pushed a lot of that money into 2020, and it's not great for a team that failed in 2019 and needs to change some things.
They're
in
likely
2020.
already clinched the title of top spending team in 2020.
They are going to need some miracle trades to make it to fix it, unless they think they just had a bad year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But if they're trading Todd Gurley and Brandon Cooks, they're going to have to pump in draft picks and cash.
New stadium, keep in mind, too.
Right, they
That's
got to
a
win.
factor.
They got to win. And Jared Goff's in for 4 years. They're going to restructure Jared Goff to open up some cap space. I mean, this is going to be either great or awful in 2020.
And NBA, you'd be surprised. Scott, I think a lot of people are surprised to hear it's the Portland Trailblazers.
Scott, how many years has it been Portland?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't know off the top of my head, but I mean, you've got Lillard, McCollum, so they've paid some guys to keep them in house, and that's why they're at the top right now, because they're paying.
I think, Scott,
a lot. And
I think it's been Portland and OKC for the last 5 years. Some version of that, if I remember correctly. Which, if you how many championships does that translate to?
Well, Houston,
Zilch.
I thought Houston would have been up there, right?
No, yeah, but they get rid of as many players as they sign. If you think about it, I mean, they've let a lot of their smaller pieces go every year. Yes, they brought in superstars, but
right.
the Harden Westbrook 1-2. By the way, people, I know I spoke to that, and I think it's really working well. There are a lot of people that don't think it's working well and think Russell Westbrook's on the trading block. Scott, do you agree with that?
Yeah, to a point. I agree.
Because that would be a splash 2020 move here.
Well,
it would.
I never thought Paul and Harden would work together because there's two guys who play with the basketball, and then I thought the same thing with Westbrook.
I think it's working. Am I crazy? I just think they're going through
winning.
the 82-game motions here.
Boy.
Is that stupid?
Yeah, once the trade deadline hits and we're in the back end of this, I think you'll definitely know more. Especially as through our decade, James Harden had the most minutes through last week. So, he's got a lot of mileage on him, just as LeBron does. So, Westbrook may step up in an instance where he's needed.
Going to give James Harden that LeBron James vacation, right?
Yeah.
Let him alternate the second half of the season, essentially. That's not a bad idea, to be honest.
No, it's not. And if you let him get acclimated to the team a little bit more and run it, then you essentially can, in the playoffs, if something happens, you've already – now's the time for them to tinker because they are winning. They're at the top of the standings. So right now, they can probably get away with tinkering a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that team. I'm just not.
I'm
worried about
I
Portland.
looked last year real quick based on your question. It looks like Miami Heat had the most cash last year.
What?
And then the year before was Oklahoma City.
Who did Miami spend it on last year?
Wow.
Who was
I can't
Miami
even answer
spending
that
it
question.
on?
I can't even answer that question.
They had paid Hassan Whiteside, Dragic, James Johnson. They had a lot of guys that they paid.
Was Melo on that? Didn't Melo go there for a minute?
Sorry. There's also dead cash in that, and Chris Bosh is dead cash from
all right.
not being able to play. That's almost $27 million
Still
factored into there. So
it counts.
All right. Alonzo Mourning still paying him too, right? Is that
No.
okay?
No.
All right.
How about baseball here?
No, this is not the Bobby Bonilla situation.
Okay, I just want. Major League Baseball.
This is why the Red Sox are doing what they're doing right now.
Everybody would figure it'd be the Yankees. It's not. It's the Red Sox at $244
It's either
million.
the Yankees, the Red Sox, or the Dodgers, pretty much.
You
right?
would think. This is why the Red Sox pulled back and said we got to cut some payroll this year. I mean, they spent $250 million last year for nothing, literally for nothing. They got nowhere. So did we trade Mookie Betts? Let's go around the table on that. Wow. Did we trade him? Because he's going to be minimum $35 million a year. Scott, is that wrong? I mean, he's more. I think from a WAR standpoint, if you're looking just at that stat, he's he's more valuable than Anthony Rendon, who's the big cash winner this year.
I think he gets moved.
You do. You do.
I do. Especially with all this payroll and everything. I just looked real quick. Boston has been in the top 3 of cash spending since 2015. So, on a previous podcast, I believe I said they would move him. Whether it's before the season or by the trade deadline, I think at some point they will move him.
Don't they have some other less important parts that they can fly off before you get rid of
Jackie Bradley Jr. for
player
sure,
like Mookie Betts?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you pay the center fielders though?
Yeah,
had this
still
discussion
think
so many
great
times.
players should get paid, and
but
sometimes you can overthink it based on what position they play or whatever. I mean, he's a great player. He does it all, and he seems to be beloved in Boston, and that matters a lot there too.
Not if they're not winning.
Yeah.
They're definitely going to try to trade David Price, and they may have to include somebody to get him out the door.
Who's taking?
That's what I mean.
Who's taking these players?
You might have to move Mookie Betts to get David Price out the door.
Right.
Right?
I mean, the Yankees just spent a boatload of money.
Well, isn't that part of it? I mean, Boston has to know that they're second right now.
Yes.
They have to know. And the Yankees are spending way less because of the youth they brought up. So it's all bad for Boston right now.
Toronto Maple Leafs were tops in the NHL at $127 million. No surprise there. They had the Mitch Marner contract.
Austin Matthews.
Yeah, the Nylander. That's the one. That's the deal to me. Like,
why'd you do it?
yes,
Gotcha.
That to me was a deal that just didn't need to be done. Contracts of the year. Mike Trout in Major League Baseball.
You just have to put him there. I mean, anytime you see $426 million next to anything, you have to put him there.
I still remember when Dave Winfield signed
$1 million
player, first $1 million
late
player.
70s, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too, Kevin. It's that's one of those milestones in our sports memory as kids to remember what a big deal that was. And at the time in the late 70s, $1 million was still $1 million, and it was still the Rockefellers were the only ones that had $1 million, right? That's the best.
What are you, 80?
That's I know. That's the best. I could have gone like J. Paul Getty on you or Andrew Carnegie. Like that's the best old rich guy reference I could.
Can we play some music to wake our audience up here, Kevin?
See what kind of abuse I get, Scott, on a regular basis.
We got to finish up. Paul's got to catch the early bird special here soon. Jacob DeGrom, by the way, boy, did he settle for too little. 5 years, $137
any
million.
disagreement here? I mean, he signed for a contract that is 42% of what Garrett Cole got, and they are 1 year apart in age.
Yeah, and play a couple boroughs over. It's disgusting.
And DeGrom has Cy Youngs to him.
That's just if I'm Jacob DeGrom, I'm firing my agent now. Like that's disgusting.
Well, you know who Jacob DeGrom's agent used to be.
Yeah, he used to be his general manager. I know.
It's all bad for DeGrom.
That is just if I'm Jacob DeGrom and I see that, I'm like, what? Cole's not even the best pitcher in the city.
It's DeGrom.
It's DeGrom.
It's DeGrom, and DeGrom's getting 42% guaranteed. Less guaranteed than Garrett Cole.
That is disgusting.
I feel terrible. I love it.
NBA. Interesting contract here. The contract of the year is Kevin Durant's contract.
I had to put it there, right?
Yeah, 4 years, 164, sign and trade.
I mean,
not playing this year.
Yeah, you knew he was
him
injured.
to not play this year.
You knew what you were getting, and you still gave him this max deal in a questionable market. Can we call Brooklyn questionable, or do we love Brooklyn now?
I don't like it. Brooklyn's questionable.
Not to mention you put him with Kyrie Irving, which has to be questionable based on his track record.
Correct.
I mean, this might just not work. It's my point. This might not work.
There's a question whether he's ever the same player again.
That's part of it.
He's not 25 years old coming off.
Is he going to be 100%?
He's in his 30s.
Is Kyrie Irving going to gel with him?
This is totally
Brooklyn actually put this thing together. There's so many red flags with this whole situation.
It's a very Knicks-like move.
No, this is a Brooklyn type move, isn't it, Scott? Because you look back to what they did with the Celtics when they got Garnett and Pierce.
Right, when they were 40.
Right. This is totally a Brooklyn move.
Scott, do you like it?
Yeah.
Does it work for you?
No. I mean, from the Brooklyn side, like you said, ton of risk. That Achilles, does he come back? I mean, we've seen players come back and they're not they're maybe like 60% of themselves in that first year, and then it takes them maybe 2 or 3 years to even come back from that. And by that time, his contract's going to be almost out. So from Brooklyn's side, no, I understand why they did it, because they needed to make a splash. They needed to jump in over the Knicks to try to persuade more fans to come in, yada, yada. I don't know if it works. I mean, right now they're just barely over 500 with Kyrie. I mean, he's had some injury here too, but they were gelling really well at the end of last season. And then you bring in these two guys, one who takes up a ton of space and isn't playing. I mean, the good thing is he's probably in the locker room and helping out on the from a X's and O's standpoint, but I mean that's a huge pill to swallow.
Here's the other part of this. He left an organization and a starting lineup that had so much covered for him, and he went to an organization where yes, Kyrie Irving can take over a couple of games, but he's going to have to do a lot. And
yes,
that's not a good recipe for recovering from an Achilles injury.
He did it when he was younger with Oklahoma City, and he had a sidekick in Westbrook
and Harden.
Well, no, but even when Harden was gone, right? Was Harden on the finals team? I thought he was traded. I thought he was already with Houston when they went to the finals.
I don't think I can answer that. I don't know.
That's all right. It doesn't matter. He was the man there, though. He was the man.
Let me say this in parting shots with Durant. It's been sort of said, but I don't think it's been said enough. I think there's a lot to Durant choosing Brooklyn because of the owner. The owner is the controlling interest owner, co-founder of Alibaba, and for those of you who don't know Alibaba, it is essentially the international Amazon. And if Durant is somewhat controlling, has any kind of financial stake in this company, basketball is the farthest thing from this whole situation. I mean, this is a $1 billion signing for Kevin Durant is what this is. So I think there's a lot to it. We'll probably never hear about it because it's probably a hush-hush kind of thing and a handshake agreement. And, Durant is sort of just bleeding money or bringing money in on the backside of this. And he's been there to become the face of the basketball franchise, but he's also just cashing in on the back end, I think.
The Kemba Walker deal is another one here. The 4-year $140 to go to the Boston Celtics. Scott, you love this deal, don't you?
I do, and I have to say, Mike called Boston at the beginning of the season that he really liked it. He thought they were going to gel together. I was a little more hesitant, but they're really doing well right now. I think they potentially have a move here coming up for a big man, but he's done really well in that situation with the Celtics.
All right, let's move on to NFL. Jared Goff, we've talked about that deal, 4 years, $134.
I'm fine with it. It was just too early. They didn't have to do it when they did it. We've talked about it before, so no need to hammer on that one.
I'm not fine with it because I don't think he's certainly not a top 5 quarterback, maybe not even borderline, even top 10
you and I were kind of in agreement that they should maybe never sign him.
I like your theory that it was more about the coach and less about the quarterback, and just go get another one after.
Yeah,
that.
we should have a show soon and try to identify which team could do that next. Which team is not going to sign their starting quarterback?
Okay.
Ooh.
Scott, write that down.
All right.
Yep, on it.
How about Julio Jones? The guarantee, nearly all of it's guaranteed. 3 years, $66 million, 64 guaranteed, and that came out in the.
Yeah, I'm on the airplane trying to tweet about Antonio Brown, and by the way, Julio Jones signs a 98% guaranteed contract to stay in Atlanta at $22 million a year. Which, by the way, none of these wide receivers that need a contract are going to come close to. I mean, Amari Cooper's not worth $22 million here. Okay, this is a Calvin Johnson-esque sort of. We know what you really are. We're paying you for what you've done. We're paying you for 3 more years of what we think you can be. This is way above and beyond what the wide receiver market actually calls for. So in terms of being short, in terms of being almost fully guaranteed, and everything about it, it's somewhat front-loaded. It's a perfect deal for Julio Jones.
When you look at hockey, it's a good year to be Russian.
Is it ever not?
No, I'm just saying.
Ovechkin's going to have 75 goals, for Christ's sake.
He's unbelievable. I mean,
yeah.
The Gretzky thing.
Yes, it's real.
It's real. Mm-hmm. There's a chance. And
how old is he now?
36?
36, 37?
Yeah, he's a stud. He is just a stud. Nikita Kucherov.
And I'm not sure his training methods are always best prescribed.
That's probably why he's fine.
right.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's like Griffey. Griffey never lifted weights. It's probably why he lasted for 15
Sure.
years.
Right.
Right?
Never
Yeah.
stretched out those hamstrings to the point of pulling them.
Kucherov, 8 years, $76 million. And
It's just value. $9.5 million a
Right.
year for just a burner. I mean,
Yes.
he's going to be one of the highest point scorers this entire contract.
Bobrovsky, though, this to me was interesting.
We got to have the goalie conversation.
7
Oh, yeah.
years.
We got to have it because Braden
why are you
Holtby's up.
paying him,
And
right?
what do you do? How do you go $10 million on a goalie, Kevin?
Well, especially in that market.
It's a free agent,
They
too,
might
yeah.
not make 70. They might not bring in $10 million in ticket revenue. I'm
Fair.
not even
no,
kidding.
It's fair.
It's just the way it is. Well, the guy, why can't I think of the guy's name from Dale Talon, right?
Yeah.
They need to remake that team. Want to make it a winner.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what you have up front, but they have plenty of good. They have good players.
They do.
They have good
can
players
score
up front.
goals.
They can score goals. It comes from drafting. They had Luongo, right, who was a franchise goaltender. So they wanted to basically bring in one of the best. I mean, he is one of the best goaltenders in the league, Bobrovsky. I mean, Carey Price, Bobrovsky. After that,
Yeah, those are pretty much the two guys.
I mean, I'm sorry, but the King Henrik
Not
is not
anymore.
the King
Not
anymore.
anymore.
The guy in Nashville is still good, but he's not the best anymore in my mind. But this is a deal that the back end of it, they're going to hate. They're going to hate a lot. I would not pay a goaltender more than, sorry, goalies. My kid's a goalie. $7 million. I would not pay him more than $7 million.
Tuukka Rask is at $7.5 million, and that sounds
Perfect.
about right. And that's an aging franchise that has a lot of veteran contracts on it. Florida's not.
Right. The only
Florida's
reason
not.
they
They didn't need to do this.
The only reason you do that for Florida is if you feel like you'll struggle to sign anybody else, and you're either not going to want to or not have the ability to pay for any high scoring guys. So you're gonna we're gonna try to win every game 2-1.
Or you don't have one in your system that you believe is going to come up in the next couple of years.
But-
That's another factor.
but
you
I
don't have a
think-
goaltender in your system that you believe is going to could be the guy.
But we do so much value work on all these sports. I just don't think Bobrovsky is production-wise that much better than
Right.
any
Even
goal
the
you can
best
get off
goalie
the street.
isn't right.
Truly, I mean, $10 million a year versus Rask at $7.5, but then you go down from there. You've got legitimate starting goalies at 6 and 5. What this signing says to me, Kevin, is we can score goals. We have no defense. We need goalies to win games for us.
Sure.
That's what $10 million a year is, and that's a bad way to think about it. You should reserve that cap space for trade deadlines when you can acquire defensemen. It's a long season. You should not have to put $10 million of a cap hit to a goalie on your cap. They've got $500,000 to work with right now in cap space.
You're preaching to the choir here.
I'm just saying that's
with
just
goalies.
backwards financials.
You do not need a great goaltender to win the Stanley Cup. You need your goaltender to play great. See the St. Louis Blues last year.
Fair enough.
Right? I think I say that every year with the Stanley Cup champion. You don't need to sign a great goaltender.
Braden Holtby's a free agent next year. Well, it'll be interesting to see what Washington does.
I can see them moving on. I mean, again, why pay him so much money?
Yep.
Top stories of 2019. We hinted on one of player empowerment.
Yeah, a little bit of a recap here. I got like 6 or 7 bullet points, kind of podcasts we've done that have sort of, I don't know, bullet pointed the the whole year. Yeah, is anything bigger than the player empowerment movement? I mean, you mentioned how it's now getting into hockey, which if it's there, it's everywhere, right?
Sure.
I mean, hockey's
Yes.
generally last with this kind of thing, and they don't have the money really it's such an owner-controlled league. Would you agree with that in terms of how the revenue is structured and all that? I mean, there's just
and
the players get such a small piece of the pie as it is. For them to demand anything is kind of crazy.
And there's a small group of owners who have the clout.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, there's
There's no question.
Yeah. So it's owner-driven league.
So how bad is it going to get across these big 4 sports?
To me, we talked about this at the beginning of this podcast. To me, the biggest story on your list here, Mike, and I think the biggest story moving forward, because we talk so much about the NFL, is the shift of what we've always talked about is how do you fit guys under the cap, and you got to make decisions because you need this guy, but you got to get rid of that guy to get this guy. it's changed now.
do
There's
whatever
so
you want.
much cap space that there's no discussions whatsoever about how do you fit guys under the cap. And I think that can be dangerous because you've taken away a little bit of the guardrails for some of these guys, because now teams are just going to start spending stupidly because there isn't any worry about, well, just give them that money because we don't have to worry about it. I think that's going to change the NFL discussion into how many bad contracts and poor decisions are going to be made, and the teams that almost operate with a different salary cap limit and make smarter, more fiscally responsible decisions may ultimately be the ones that have more success.
All right, but this is in terms of player empowerment, right? So I think you'll see that happen in the NFL the next CBA, and because the young stars aren't getting paid.
Yeah.
And then there's a question of, to Paul's point here, do you pay those stars when their contracts come up? And if the players really have control of this, they'll flip it where players are getting paid earlier.
Yeah, but we had
in the
that
National
old
Football.
system, and they changed it because the veteran guys were tired of the quarterbacks in the top 10 picks coming and making 10 times more than they were after 7 years in the league. So I don't agree with you, Kevin. I don't think that changes. I
think
really
it
don't.
does. Well, I think it does because the stars of the league are the young players, and if they're the ones, listen, I want to
There's
get paid.
still more veteran guys in the league, I think.
Two things can happen here. You touched on something I want to get to also, Kevin. The rookie wage scale needs to go way up. Okay, you got it. Your number one pick is Joe Burrow is going to make $34 million over 4 years, estimated. Okay, that's got to go up.
Yes.
To start that process. And then the second thing is the spending floor has to go up. And if that happens, and there still is a rookie wage scale, teams can't just rely on draft picks. You have to put money into veterans, and you'll have to overpay essentially by a couple $1 million to keep some guys around or to bring some guys in. That's what has to offset this plethora of cap space, because teams are smart. They're smart. Yeah. All right, they've got tons of tools that say, look, we don't need to make a splash in free agency, even though we have $80 million to work with. We can use 25 of it.
Because the proof is you're getting better performances out of younger players. So why
on
would you
deals.
pay
on 1 year prove it deals?
Yeah, why would you pay
Yes.
veteran guys when you can get better players through the draft?
Yep.
Scott, two big stories in the NFL last year: financial Antonio Brown and the money that he threw away, and the same with Andrew Luck.
Yeah, but Andrew Luck got it.
Because the Colts decided
To
to
me,
pay.
that's the story, is that Luck did this to them at the final, at the 12th hour, and still gained, what was it, $23 million?
Yes.
$23 million to walk away out of good faith.
Right.
It's incredible.
When does he come back, Scott?
I don't know. If I had to guess, I'm going to say he's done.
Yeah.
Would you
and
come back
then,
if you got a $23 million
When
buyout?
some far-off South Pacific island gets an NFL franchise.
Also, his father's running the XFL.
Right.
I think there's plenty to talk about at the dinner
Yeah,
table.
he's an outlier.
He's not bored.
He's an outlier in his life and in who he is. And I agree with Scott. I think he made that decision, and there's no wavering. He's done, never to be seen again. Literally, maybe never to be seen again.
Hold on a second. How long do they retain his rights?
Good question. Let me look while you guys keep talking.
I was going to say Antonio Brown. With your question with that, to me, this was the story of the year because of how long and how many different avenues it went, using social media to try to get himself released, and then going to the Patriots, and then that whole story there. I mean, it was just one left turn after another, and it was just something that dominated the storyline for a long time.
And how about the Saints invite him to work out? And
exactly.
Reportedly told him, don't bring in an entourage, and he shows up with an entourage.
So that
and
ties
then
in.
tweets out, and then tweets a picture of his waiver out.
Yeah.
So I think the story with it, and certainly we've talked about it all year, the story with it is that this started off as player empowerment. Antonio Brown saying, get me out of here. I need greener grass. And it ended up with Antonio Brown losing.
Correct.
He lost.
Yeah, the NFL still controls the players.
Well,
But you're also talking about
Isn't
one
that
of the
the point
most
to make?
unstable guys that we've ever seen.
But forget that. It's the NFL said this is our league.
That's right.
And same thing with Miles
Something
Garrett.
the NBA couldn't do, Kevin.
The NBA can't. Yes, that's correct.
That's what I'm saying here. The NFL might still have control over their players. Might.
I'm just saying
They do.
it's
might.
dangerous to me to judge any of those conclusions off of Antonio Brown because he's a bit of a wacko. Let's be honest now, and he could have been in the best position ever and still figured out a way to hate it and figure out a way to ruin it. So I'm not ready to go that far based on him.
Antonio, if you're listening, that's at Peck on Sports on Twitter.
Go ahead, man. It's a long list of people that he just add me to it.
There are issues that are troubling. I think that's fair to say with Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I don't even make fun at him. There was an ESPN story just this week which dove into some of the background and some of the past teammates and people that have been around him, and it's very troubling. It's beyond just crazy entitled superstar behavior to much bigger issues, Kevin.
All right, are we ready for some year-end trivia?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, you wrote these questions.
I didn't.
So I'm not looking at
Well,
it.
Scott
I
did.
have not read any of them.
Oh, good.
The answers are way down at the bottom.
Yeah,
Don't
Scott, you
scroll
take
down.
over the show here then.
Yeah, Scott, I didn't look at the answers either.
Okay, great. So I tried to mix a little bit of everything here. So this translates from the conversation we were just having. So I have 6 top stories, and the 3 of you need to try to come up with the chronological order of these 6. So let me read them all off so that the listeners have them all, and then you guys can try to figure this out. So we've got, and these are obviously in no particular order.
You could have just done this with Antonio Brown, Scott.
Yeah,
6 Antonio Brown transactions.
Antonio Brown released from Oakland. Anthony Davis official trade to the Lakers. Andrew Luck retires from Indianapolis in the NFL. Bryce Harper signs his 13-year, $330 million contract with Philadelphia. Ezekiel Elliott signs his extension, and Mike Trout signs his record-breaking extension with the Angels.
All right.
Well, the baseball ones have to be the first ones chronologically.
Yeah, but which one came first? I think it was Harper first. Harper, then Trout.
I'm writing this down. So don't influence my answers.
Wait, are we on a team here?
Oh, it's a team
effort.
All right, I have D.
Jesus, Kevin, get your own show, man.
I have D happening first. Bryce Harper, right? All right, we agree with
Is
Bryce
that
Harper?
Ding.
Okay.
And
then Mike Trout.
Wait.
Would Mike Trout be second?
When did Antonio get released? Oh, Oakland.
Oh, no,
Oakland.
yeah. No,
Oakland.
AD would be the next one, right?
No, that was
And-
July
Because all the
5th.
football
No.
ones were later.
No,
And
Davis
AD
was in
July
July
5th.
and then Zeke was later in training camp,
All
right?
right,
Because
so
he showed up late.
So it's Harper, then Trout. Is that right?
Ding, ding.
Okay.
All right. So D, F. I have B. Don't hang on. I have B next. That would be Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that's July. That's
Yep.
right.
That'd be right.
Ding.
All right.
Okay.
And then
the 3 football ones.
Hold on. Yes, the 3 football ones. I think it is. I think it's ECA.
Zeke, then Luck, then AB. I think
Zeke, Luck.
I think Luck was
no,
first.
Luck was
Luck was
late in training
late.
camp.
It was late
wasn't
in
it?
training
Late
camp,
was
wasn't
like the third or fourth.
Antonio Brown was
game.
September 6th. I know that off the top of my head.
He's last. So
Zeke
then,
Elliott was
remember
week
he's-
1, right?
Zeke would have been first of that group.
Oh wait, no, Zeke, you're right.
Wasn't Zeke week 1?
Zeke was. So it would be
Luck, Zeke,
And
Luck,
AB.
Brown.
AB, Zeke.
Scott, where are we at? Give us the list right down
Luck.
the line. Give us all 6.
Harper, Trout, Davis, Luck, Elliott, Brown.
All right.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Elliott and Brown were real close. That's why I use these two. Elliott was September 4th, and Brown was September 7th.
Oh, tricky, Scott.
Nice.
You're no match for us. Next one.
All right. Number 2, we've got total money lost between fines and suspensions in 2019.
Just
you've
NFL,
got-
Scott? What do we got here?
No, this is
All four?
All 4 big sport.
D.
So
I
we've
say
got
Yeah,
$5 million plus. It's got to be D.
I'm going with Kevin there.
What's the number, Scott?
it is C. It was 4.3 million, so 4 million plus.
Really?
But we're not counting Antonio Brown's $33 million, right?
That number seems low to me. That seems low to me. I'm just thinking Myles Garrett had a big, but he's not. His contract's next year.
Yeah, he's got a rookie deal still.
All right.
Yeah.
Next question.
All right, we've got Which player had their cash career earnings page viewed the most in 2019? A. LeBron, B. Andrew Luck, C. Rob Gronkowski, and D. Tom Brady.
That's a great
This is
one.
a good one.
I think it's Luck, but I think Gronk is high on that list too because people, once he retired, be like, well, how much did that guy make?
This is like the art test Mr. Frank gave us in junior high. He had 100 questions. And
Shout out to Mr. Davis.
No, Mr. Frank.
Doesn't matter.
All right. The jerk made every answer C. Every answer. So he goes, for those of you who didn't study and thought the answer couldn't be C, every answer C on the test. I'm
It's
like,
amazing.
oh.
Also, you got tests in art?
Yes. So I'm
Wow.
your wife's an art teacher, right? Yeah. We got what I say, Mr. Frank? Sorry. I'm going with C, Gronk.
This answer has to be Tom Brady. Tom Brady is just the most viewed player for any reason. Right, Scott?
I go Luck. I'm guessing Luck.
All right, it is Tom Brady.
That was too obvious. But he was the most viewed player. Why wouldn't it be?
Kevin, by the way, when I was in junior high school, we used the Genesis Abacab method. If you didn't know anything about
I know
what the tests were, the
My
Abacab
God.
method.
I know the Abacab method. Yes, absolutely. That is, and matter of fact, I want to say there was a teacher, it might be a coworker of my sister who's a teacher, that made the test Abacab.
No, I love
just to
it.
see if any kid would
Love
do
it.
the
It's
Abacab
probably a good
system.
time to announce that I'll be offering a senior citizen discount for premium subscriptions next year. My goodness.
You guys
Scott,
don't know
next question.
You guys don't know Abacab? All right, go.
Moving on.
Oh my God!
We've got
Go ahead.
This question is
we've got
impossible. Go ahead.
We've got name the top 3 earning colleges for 2019 cash earned from athletes out of the Big Four.
Oh, this
So
is a
4
great
sports, all the Duke money, all the Kentucky. Is that what you're saying?
right.
All
Yes.
the USC money, all the LSU money.
God.
All right.
Yes.
Ohio State's
Ohio
got to be on
State.
this list.
Got to be Ohio State.
Hold on.
Right? Because
They are not top 3. Ohio State is number 5.
Wow. All right. So now you got to
Wait
think
a second.
basketball, and you got to think big money basketball
No.
guys.
Football.
Hold on.
Wait, where did Trout didn't go to college?
No.
Harper didn't go to college.
See, I think we're thinking football, but we got to be thinking
Wait,
basketball.
Garrett
Can I
Cole-
say-
Garrett Cole went to UCLA, right?
How about I'm going to
I
put
was-
Duke in there because of Daniel Jones.
Duke is not in the top 5.
How about Texas?
Texas is number 3.
How about Florida, Scott?
How do I tell everybody why I
Durant.
picked Durant? Kevin Durant's the reason why I picked Texas.
Wait, Kyrie
Florida is
Irving
not.
too.
Kyrie
Duke's not top 5.
with Kyrie Irving. They're not top 5.
Because they have no football guys. No football guys other than Daniel Jones. This is a great question.
When you hear number 1, it'll be kind of obvious.
Alabama.
They are number 4.
Yeah, no football, no basketball players.
They don't have quarterbacks either.
Right.
Wait
good
a
question.
second. Wait,
Which
now,
quarterback signed
Hold on.
Russell?
How about Cal? How about
Can't be
Cal?
Wisconsin. No, it can't be Cal.
Well, Aaron Rodgers.
He didn't sign this year though. He made a lot of money though. You're right.
It is number 2 is a California college. I'll give you that much.
USC. Can it be USC?
Nope.
UCLA.
Nope. UCLA number 2.
I was right. Is it because of Garrett Cole? Oh, and Russell Westbrook.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
this
Russell
is-
Westbrook.
This is hard to go across the sports like this.
Westbrook and Love were
Right, but
helpers in
really
that.
no football
Kevin
players, no real significant football players either. So,
All right, we're missing one.
We're still missing number one.
Scott, is
huh?
it which sport is it driven towards?
Basketball.
Okay. Is it? It can't be Kentucky. There's no one else anywhere, right?
Yeah, it is Kentucky.
It is
They
Kentucky.
have that many basketball
Well,
players.
Yeah, they've got
Anthony
Towns.
Davis.
So the rundown, we've got Kentucky, $361 million.
Almost all basketball.
That's cash.
This is cash out of all the four.
Calipari's
And
doing
then
just fine.
UCLA players earned $277 million. Wow. Texas, $268 million.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Who
I'm glad
are
I
the
got one
top
of them.
guys on that list for Kentucky? Are they all basketball? Is there anybody non-basketball?
I'd have to go back and look. I know Anthony Davis is at the top, and then DeMarcus Cousins, but he didn't earn as much this year. But he's
That John Wall, right? John Wall.
John Wall's Kentucky.
John Wall. Yep,
Right,
John
yeah.
Wall.
But I would bet almost no football. I can't even think of a prominent Kentucky football player. that would be on.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that after the show.
The last
and
one,
let
and
you
he's
guys-
passed away, is Jared Lorenzen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Benny Snell from the Steelers, but that's a rookie contract. I mean, they haven't had a good enough football program.
Wow, you just took 20 years off your age by mentioning
Thank you.
Benny Snell.
Thank you, appreciate
it.
that. Thank you very
All right,
much.
what's the final question?
All right. Final question is total number of cash spent on all players, regardless of active, dead, injured, reserve,
Dead.
for
Oh Lord.
and I'm including all Big Four plus WNBA and MLS in there. At WNBA and MLS wasn't significant, but I added them in just to
So,
include
Total
all the
cash
teams
spent on
here.
all 6 of these sports the entire year. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to go Major League Baseball.
No. He wants a number.
No, total money.
Oh, the number.
total
He wants
number.
in the billions how much cash
billions.
was spent.
All right, well, we can eliminate the WNBA.
Well, they have to
No,
include
no.
them.
You're including
Oh, you're talking-
all of them.
all 6
all
sports
six
combined.
sports.
Oh, we're not ranking them. We're just guessing a number. Is that what we're saying?
One number. Yes,
Well,
one
I'm-
number
I'm-
total spent.
I'm tapping out.
Scott, is it over 10 billion?
Oh, it's got to be over 10.
It is over 10.
He didn't seem like it was much over 10.
16 and a half.
I'm going to say 12. I'm going to say 12 billion.
I'm going to say 14 billion.
$1.
Paul is the closest. It is 17.9 billion.
Wow.
Oh, my
goodness.
gosh.
My
Wow.
goodness. Is it the NBA by the most?
I didn't split it off. I just did a complete total.
I would
of
guess
the
it would be.
of the big four, it's 17.6 billion. So WNBA and MLS didn't add too much, but I added them in because of the team sport.
Sure.
Wow.
Awesome.
That is that's incredible.
Yeah.
Good
So,
stuff there.
You know, and again, I always say this to people: if you're shocked by that number and you're jolted by that number, just keep in mind that the revenues were pretty much right about there too. They don't spend it if they don't make it. So
No.
anytime you complain about players getting too much money and all that stuff, somebody's writing the checks.
I think most teams double. Don't you think, their revenue? I think it's on average 100% payout for every team in the league.
So you're
outside of the
saying,
Florida
you're saying
Panthers.
sports may have. So you're telling me, and you're saying sports may have pulled in roughly $30 billion in revenues this past year.
I would say that's
Yeah.
probably right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
No?
Just wrap your head around that number.
No, it's crazy. That's just absolutely not. Hey, we want to thank some special guests.
Yeah, it's been a good year. Yeah, we had Shane Costa on a few times, the NFL agent, Robert Rayola a few times, our tax guy. We'll bring him back soon now the free agency season's
We'll get
upon
Shane
us.
back on as we head towards draft season
Sure.
and off season. Yep.
Mason Champion from Morgan Stanley, our presenting sponsor, of course. That was
awesome.
a lot of fun, a lot of insight there. Greg Gabriel, who's now
He's
part
the
of
general
the XFL.
manager of the XFL's Washington, D.C.
So,
Defenders.
we're gonna see if we can sneak him back on, right?
Yeah, I think maybe once they get up and running, we'll have Greg back on to talk about what it was like to be involved in a startup league.
transition, yeah.
And we'll kind of see where that league goes and falls and whether anybody cares.
I thought their stadium's they're playing on the National Mall in that field there. No,
That can't be right.
that is not right.
That's where the Chargers are. That's where the Chargers
Field
should
goals
play
are
next
only
year.
good if they hit the Washington Monument.
They got to skip it off the reflecting pond.
Hey, does Ron Rivera bring Cam Newton with him?
Yes. Well, you got Haskins there.
Do you?
I think he brings him with him. I agree.
Hey, Drew Rosenhaus, that was fun. It was
Yep.
tough phone connection, but remember it was in the middle of Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
And he was injured, and he was up for the contract, and he had his off the
And
field
we were
issue.
more worried about that than he was. Remember?
He
Yes.
couldn't have been a
Well,
cooler.
now everything's okay. Like, oh, okay,
and it really
great.
was.
Yeah,
And
it
by the
was.
way, Tyreek Hill's been phenomenal.
Yep.
So God bless it. Yeah, we did some work with the Ringer this year. Hope to do a lot more with them next year. They do a ton of great work, and they write so many stinking articles every day. And speaking of articles, the athletic articles on Spotrac have been awesome. I click constantly. I know a lot of you do. We see a lot of the numbers behind the scenes. That's been a really good partnership. We're going to keep that going in 2020. Maybe even add to it. It's just nice to have some fresh, up-to-date content for all the teams across all of our sports. So we want to thank Morgan Stanley, the Athletic, and Dynasty owner, who we're going to hope to bring back as well now that Dynasty fantasy football season is back. I mean, it's a 12-month process, right? Now that the season's over, you got to start thinking about building your team for next year.
And that's a really cool thing they have going on there. So, a lot of great partners to thank, including Morgan Stanley, whom you mentioned, Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment. They believe in empowering professional athletes and entertainers with the knowledge they need to make informed decisions about all this money we're just talking about on the show, all this money that's paid out in 2019. To learn more, go to morganstanley.com/GSE, Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC. Have a happy, healthy, and safe New Year, and we'll talk to you in 2020 here on the Spotrac Podcast.